I discovered a positive pregnancy test in the bathroom wastebasket. When I confronted her, she gave me a sly grin and said, "Chill, you're not the dad anyway." I told her to leave. She gathered her things and left with that same smug grin, but it faded when she realized none of the other guys wanted to claim paternity either. My world shattered on a Tuesday. It's strange how these things always seem to happen on a Tuesday. It was garbage night, and I was doing a final sweep of the house, collecting the small bins from the bathrooms. When I pulled the bag from the master bathroom can, there it was, sitting on top, a pregnancy test. It was positive. Two clear blue lines glared at me like a silent accusation. My heart skipped, a mix of disbelief and, I'll confess, a flicker of excitement. My girlfriend, Sarah, and I had been together for 4 years. We shared a home. We discussed our future, marriage, kids, the whole package. I thought this was it. Unexpected, but maybe a joyful surprise. I walked into the living room, clutching the plastic stick like it was a golden ticket. Sarah was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a glass of wine on the side table. That should have been my first clue. "Hey," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I found this in the trash." She glanced up, saw the test in my hand, and her face stayed blank. No shock, no fear, no joy, nothing. She took a leisurely sip of her wine. "So," she said, sounding utterly disinterested. "So," I echoed, bewildered. "It's positive, are we?" That's when she did it. A slow, mocking grin spread across her face, one that didn't touch her eyes. It was the kind of look that makes you feel insignificant, like you're the punchline to a joke you don't understand. "Relax," she said, placing her wine glass down with a gentle clink. "You're not the father anyway." The ground vanished beneath me, the air felt thin. I stood there staring at her, trying to process her words. They didn't add up. 4 years, we lived in my house. I covered most of our expenses while she chased her creative ventures that drained our bank account. I thought we were building a life together, but with one sentence, she'd obliterated everything. I don't know what she expected. Tears, shouting, pleading. I think she craved a spectacle. She thrived on chaos, but I didn't give her one. Something inside me, the part that might have been crushed, went cold and still. It was like a switch flipped. The pain was there, buried deep, but it was smothered by a layer of frost. I looked at her, at the grin still curling her lips, and I saw her clearly for the first time. Not the woman I loved, but a stranger. A cold, calculating stranger who was relishing this moment. I set the pregnancy test on the coffee table. When I spoke, my voice was calm, frigid. "Get out!" Her grin wavered for a moment. "What?" "You heard me," I said. "Pack your stuff, I want you out of my house, tonight." She laughed, recovering quickly. "You're serious? You're throwing me out just like that?" "You just told me you're pregnant with someone else's kid," I said. "What's there to discuss?" "You have 1 hour." I turned, walked to my home office, and closed the door. I could hear her moving around, slamming drawers, making loud, furious phone calls in the other room. I didn't care. I sat at my desk, staring at the wall, my mind racing faster than ever. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a declaration of war. She thought she held all the cards. She believed she could drop this bombshell and waltz into a new life with her new man, leaving me in ruins. She had no idea how badly she'd miscalculated. She underestimated me. Everyone always does. They see the reserved guy who runs a small landscaping company and assume he's basic. They're always mistaken. An hour later, she knocked on the office door. I opened it. She had 2 suitcases packed, her bag slung over her shoulder. The grin was back, bolder than ever. She looked smug, victorious even. "Fine," she said. "I'm leaving. I was getting bored of this place anyway. My friend's coming to pick me up." I just nodded. "Don't bother contacting me," she added, tossing her hair. "My real partner's going to take care of me now. We're going to have a real life, not this dull, small-town existence." She expected me to break. I just stepped aside to let her pass. As she walked out my front door for the last time, she turned and gave me one final, pitying glance. That look said it all. She thought she'd won. She thought she was moving up. She had no idea she'd just walked away from the best situation she'd ever have and into a disaster of her own creation. A disaster I was going to carefully orchestrate, step by step. The game was on. Update 1 asterisk, it's been 3 weeks since Sarah walked out of my life with that smug grin and a baby that isn't mine. The first few days were silent. Too silent. The house felt vast and empty. But I didn't let myself dwell. That's what she would have wanted. Instead, I got to work. My first post gained a lot of attention, and the support was incredible. Many of you urged me to move on and forget her. I hear you, but that's not how I'm built. When someone burns your life to the ground, you don't just walk away. You figure out who they are and ensure they can't do it again. My first challenge was straightforward. I didn't know who the father or fathers might be. Sarah was skilled at covering her tracks, but she made one mistake. She was still logged into her cloud account on our shared tablet. We'd had it for years, and she'd likely forgotten it was still linked to everything. It was a treasure trove. Messages, photos, social media chats she thought she'd erased. It took me 2 sleepless nights, fueled by coffee and icy anger, to piece together the timeline of her betrayal. It wasn't just one guy, it was 3. She'd been juggling a roster of men behind my back. Each one had a different role. It was like she was curating a collection of potential upgrades. First, there was Mike, the muscle. A personal trainer from the pricey gym she joined 6 months ago. The one I paid for, of course. From the messages, their connection was purely physical. He was all about gym selfies, protein shakes, and mirror poses. Sarah's texts to her friends about him were harsh. She called him her dumb but fun plaything and mocked his intelligence relentlessly. But to him, she gushed about his discipline and chiseled physique. Then there was Ethan, the cash. A married 50-something partner at the ad agency where she did freelance work. He was her ticket to luxury. He funded lavish dinners, city weekend getaways, and pricey gifts she claimed were freelance perks. Their messages were all about secrecy. He was terrified of his wife finding out. Sarah played the role of the thrilling, forbidden escape for him, but to her friends, she called him the old guy with the wallet and was already scheming to secure a full-time job at his firm. Finally, there was Noah, the dreamer. A musician she met at an art gallery event. He was her emotional outlet. Their messages were filled with flowery poetry and talk of their profound connection. He was broke, living in a cramped studio, but he made her feel seen, or so he thought. To her friends, she described him as her pathetic but charming project, and laughed about how he thought they were destined for each other. Reading it all, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt disgusted. She wasn't just cheating. She was manipulating these men, playing a part for each, just as she had with me. The pregnancy wasn't a mistake. It was a tactic. She planned to choose the best option from her collection and cash in. My strategy began to take shape. It wasn't about targeting the men. They were fools, but they were being played too. My aim was to reveal the real Sarah to each of them. I had a hunch none would want to be the father once they knew the truth. I started with Mike. This was simple. I created an anonymous Instagram account. I found a photo of one of Mike's gym buddies, a guy he frequently posted workout clips with. I sent the friend a brief message. Your pal Mike is being played. His new girl is seeing other guys. Then to the same friend, I sent carefully chosen, anonymous screenshots of Sarah's texts to her friends, where she called Mike a brainless meathead. Guys like that are loyal to their gym crew, and their egos are delicate. I knew the message would reach Mike, and it would sting where it hurt most. Ethan was trickier. He was a powerful man, and his wife came from a wealthy, influential family. Exposing the affair directly could backfire legally. I had to be cleverer. I compiled a small, anonymous package. It didn't include love notes or photos. It held something far more damaging. Printouts of Sarah's hidden credit card statements, showing tens of thousands in debt. It also included a few texts to her friends where she bragged about locking down the old guy and called his wife a dull old cow. I didn't send it to Ethan. I sent it to his wife at her workplace. I included no note. The documents spoke for themselves. A woman like her wouldn't tolerate a messy, indebted mistress threatening her family's reputation and finances. She'd see Sarah not as a romantic rival, but as a problem to be eliminated. Noah was the final piece. He was all about feelings and authenticity. The truth would shatter his illusion. I found a mutual contact on his social media, another artist in the local scene. Through another anonymous account, I sent her a message. Noah should know the truth about his new muse, Sarah. She's not who he thinks. I attached screenshots of Sarah mocking his music, calling him pathetic, and laughing about their so-called soulmate connection. I knew the art community was tight-knit and gossipy. The truth would reach him. With the seeds planted, I just had to wait. I spent the next week working, hitting the gym, and methodically erasing every trace of Sarah from my home. I boxed up her clothes, books, and trinkets, storing them away. I changed the Wi-Fi password. I blocked her on my phone and all social media. I was building a fresh start. The first sign my plan was working came about 10 days later. A text from an unknown number. It was Sarah. Why isn't Mike answering me? Did you do something? I didn't respond. A few days later, another text. My contract with Ethan's agency got canceled. What did you do? I stayed silent. Her confident grin was starting to fracture. She had no idea her carefully crafted options were about to vanish, leaving her completely alone. The real storm was still coming. Final update, it's done. I'm sitting on my back porch watching the sunset. The house is quiet, and for the first time in a month it feels like mine again. The past 2 weeks have been a whirlwind, not for me but for Sarah. For her, it's been a total collapse. After I planted the seeds of truth with her 3 men, I stepped back and watched. I didn't need to do more. Sarah's own actions and the predictable responses of the men she'd chosen did the rest. The first to cut ties was Mike, the trainer. His friend showed him the texts. The idea that a woman was calling him a dumb plaything while he thought he was the catch crushed his ego. He confronted Sarah at the gym in front of everyone, shouting that she was a liar and telling her to lose his number before storming off to lift something heavy. Sarah was publicly humiliated. Her first fallback was gone. Next was Noah, the musician. The gossip spread through the art scene like wildfire. He saw the screenshots and was, according to the mutual contact, devastated. He thought they shared a unique bond. Learning she mocked his passion and laughed at their connection shattered his romantic dream. He sent her a long, emotional email about truth and betrayal, wished her well, and blocked her everywhere. He was too sensitive for her games. Fallback number 2, gone. The final and most dramatic collapse was Ethan, the married partner. His wife received my anonymous package. She didn't confront him with tears or accusations. She was far more calculated. I learned she hired a private investigator after getting the package. It took him a day to confirm everything. She was a quiet force. She contacted her lawyers, her father, and the other partners at Ethan's agency. Within 48 hours, Ethan faced a full-blown crisis. His wife filed for divorce and threatened to expose his financial missteps to the board. The agency's partners, fearing a scandal, placed him on immediate leave. Ethan, in a panic, cut Sarah off entirely. He saw her as the root of his problems. He had his lawyer send her a cease and desist letter, warning her never to contact him again. He even offered her a one-time $5,000 payment for her silence, which she was desperate enough to take. Her golden ticket had turned to ash. Fallback number 3, obliterated. This all unfolded in about a week. I knew it was working because Sarah's texts came flooding in, shifting from angry accusations to confusion, then desperation. She had nowhere to turn. The friend she was staying with evicted her when she couldn't pay rent. I heard she called her parents, but they told her she'd made her choices and had to face them. She had no job, no income, and 3 men who wanted nothing to do with her. The final showdown came last night. There was a knock at my door. It was Sarah. The smug grin was gone. She looked drained, her eyes red and swollen, her pregnancy now visible. She looked like a shipwreck. She started crying the moment I opened the door. She was sorry. She'd made a terrible mistake. She didn't know what she was thinking. She was confused. It was the classic empty apology. "I have nowhere else to go," she sobbed. "I'm scared. Can I please come back?" I didn't let her in. I stood in the doorway. "Back?" I asked. "This isn't your home anymore, Sarah. You made that clear." "But the baby," she pleaded. "What am I going to do?" "I don't know," I said. "You told me I'm not the father. I believe you. Who is the father?" "I don't know for sure," she whispered, barely audible. "It could be any of them. But they all hate me now." "They do," I said. "And do you know why?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I stepped back, grabbed a single manila folder, and showed her the contents. Printouts of her texts, the screenshots I'd sent, the anonymous emails, a timeline of her deception. "They hate you because I showed them the real you, Sarah," I said, my voice flat. "I didn't lie. I didn't make anything up. I just gave them the truth. The things you said, the way you used them, the way you used me. They didn't leave you because of me. They left because of you." She stared at the papers, her face a mask of shock. The reality of how thoroughly I'd outplayed her finally hit. "You ruined my life," she whispered. "No," I said, closing the folder. "You ruined your life. I just flipped on the light so everyone could see it." I'd already consulted a lawyer. He'd prepared an agreement. I went inside, grabbed it, along with a pen and a $10,000 cashier's check. "This is a one-time payment," I said, holding out the documents. "It's more than you deserve, but it'll help you start over. In exchange, you sign this. It states our relationship is over. You'll clear your things from storage within 30 days, and you'll never contact me again for any reason. It also confirms, for the record, that you acknowledge I'm not the biological father of your child and have no legal or financial responsibility for it." She looked from the check to the papers to my face, searching for something. Compassion, regret. There was nothing there for her. She'd burned that bridge and every other one she'd crossed. She was stranded on an island she'd created. She took the pen, her hand trembling, and signed the papers. I handed her the check. "Goodbye, Sarah," I said, and I closed the door. I watched through the peephole as she stood on my porch, staring at the check in her hand. The confident, smirking woman who'd walked out a month ago was gone forever. In her place was someone forced to face the consequences of her own choices. I don't know what'll happen to her, and honestly, I don't care. My revenge wasn't about destroying her. It was about reclaiming my life and my pride. It was about showing her that the quiet, ordinary man she so easily discarded was smarter, stronger, and far more capable than she ever realized. As I turned from the door and walked back into my calm, peaceful home, I knew one thing for certain. I had won,